Welcome back to Part 3, Into the Breach on Unfair with the Arachnophiles. We're on to our third corporate island. Mechs are on screen. We've got the Slide Mech with Shield Self and Viscera Nanobots. Movement upgrade, no pilot. Alas, we had to sell our bonus pilot from the last island. We've got the Bulk Mech with Force Amp. Movement upgrade, we've got Ralph Carlson in the pilot seat. And finally, our other starter pilot, Ayesha Kirby, in the Arachnoid Mech, with a damage upgrade on the Arachnoid Injector and a brand new cryo launcher that we're going to be trying out. So for my next island, we have a kind of formidable OPT-4 on both Archive and RST. We've got, burrowers on Archive, among other problems. And then RST has Tumblebugs, Diggers, and the Mosquito Leader. It's a really nasty one. I'd say RST is the worst of the two. And so I pick RST because I'm trying to picture what would be the worst fourth island. And if I was going to do RST as number 4, I'd be dealing with, Tumblebug Leaders, among other things. And I didn't want to deal with another Leader Vec as well as the Mosquito Leader. So I'm deciding to do this one first. I'm somewhat lucky in that I get the Defend the Terraformer mission right off the bat, which will give us a nice, hopefully, easy start. Although it can be a little bit risky with Tumblebugs in the picture. And of course we have the rotten luck of having both Tumblebugs and a Digger in our opening array. So I'm checking where the enemy are likely to move, and I see that the Alpha Leaper is going to be attacking the grid on the western side of the board. So I'm going to have to deploy my mechs in such a way that I'm going to have to deal with that Leaper somehow. So I think I'm going to have the Bulk Mech be on Leaper wrangling duty. Leaper now is basically guaranteed to either attack the Terraformer or go to A5. So we'll see how it shakes out. Then we've got the other two mechs trying to do their best to wrangle the foe. I'm trying to see if I can't get the Digger to attack my mechs. I'm just trying to be very deliberate about my deployment. Unfortunately, things do not go at all like I predicted. We've got only one threat to the grid in the form of the Moth, but more disconcertingly is the multiple threats to the Terraformer itself. So we're going to have to do something about that here. So, interestingly, I decided to just clear the way for my other mechs. We're doing a lot of clearing of space, as it were. This way, with using our Force Amp, we can kill the Alpha Leaper, and now the Terraformer will take 1 point of chip damage, but it will survive. It has 2 health. And I've done sufficient damage that I can finish off the Digger as well, and we won't have to worry about it anymore. So that was a relatively clean first turn. We'll take a little bit of damage, but that's okay. And hopefully we won't have... hopefully the Tumblebug will position its next boulder in such a way that we can safely dispose of it. And I'm frustrated. That did not shake out. Fortunately, the Slide Mech is good for non-lethal repositioning of objects, so we can get that explosive boulder out of the way before it becomes a bigger problem. Then it looks like the plan is to block a spawn and freeze that moth with our brand new ice generator. And we can spend the rest of this turn just positioning. If you have a turn like this, where there's like nothing of a special value to do, it's wise to stick a friendly in a corner, such as that tile on C4. You really don't want to get Vex lodged into corners, if at all possible. Then we've got the Blast Scion and a pair of Alpha Leapers to complicate matters further. The Slide Mech, as I've mentioned before, is a very valuable and powerful unit. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. And part of the reason I think the Slide Mech is low-key, possibly MVP for the Arachnophiles, is that the Force Slide weapon is in many ways like a localized version of the Wind Turbine. And the Wind Turbine is a very, very powerful weapon that I am yet to showcase on this series. Perhaps one of these days we will get the opportunity to showcase the potency of the Wind Turbine. The Wind Turbine is sort of a omnidirectional slide in a single direction. It affects everything on the board. Very similar in the way how everything moves to the Slide Mech. So we just spent that turn basically wrangling the Leapers, making sure that they do not damage anything important. And our final turn will be a 3v4, my favor. I guess 3v5 if we count the Terraformer. So in theory, we should have more than enough actions to secure our victory here. We'll be off to a clean start on RST. That will be essentially a board wipe, not counting the frozen moth. And mission accomplished, nice and clean. But the day is still young, and RST can be tricky. I'm sure we're going to be tossed quite a few puzzles here. The big problem with having tumblebugs and diggers in play is that they're just going to be cluttering up the board with rocks and unstable boulders. This can be a very hard thing to deal with on a lot of squads. The Arachnophiles are maybe in a little bit of a better position to deal with it, with both of the Slide Mech and the Bulk Mech reliant on, multiple ricochets. We sink the first Time Pod Power Core into the Bulk Mech, with the idea of eventually getting the damage upgrade for the ricochet rockets. Combined with Force Amp, it will be quite a powerful force to be reckoned with. So, deciding on my next mission option, they're not the greatest in the world. The Rift has the advantage of being a Cataclysm mission, which are at least short in duration. Kern's Folly has a Windstorm, which could get complicated. But at least that map has lots of water tiles that I may or may not be able to take advantage of. So I think I commit to the Kern's Folly mission. I just need to end the battle with less than 4 mech damage. And once again, we kind of get the worst possible RNG here, which is both Tumblebugs, the Digger, and the Blast Scion on the field. So the 4 most irritating Vec that I could possibly have to deal with, we're just going to have to deal with. I can tell that the grid tile on E4 is just going to get swarmed with problems. The digger is very likely to attack it. The tumblebugs are very likely to attack it. It's going to get real messy. And I believe this mission took me a while to figure out a solve. Indeed, many of the missions on this island took substantial amounts of time. And I'm going to try and, in editing, condense things as much as I can, but this is going to be a long video, unfortunately. It's just the nature of the beast. I'm finally happy with my deployment, or as happy as I can be. So we have 3 threats to the grid, 3 actions to do something about it, but we are in trouble here. My first inclination is to do something about the gastropod, which can easily be dumped into the water by the slide mech. And then I think I was trying to engineer some kind of way to ricochet the explosive boulder out of the way, but it didn't really pan out. Eventually, I liked to push the digger, and then, you know, there's 2 Vek that are threatening the unstable boulder. So I sort of had this idea in my mind of freezing the unstable boulder, but that wasn't really going to solve any problems. Yes, the digger would free me, but then, you know, one Vek would break the ice, and then the other Vek would destroy the unstable boulder, and we're back to where we started. Nothing was accomplished. So I use a temporal reset. I reevaluate the board. I still commit to destroying the gastropod. Just now a matter of, can I do a better job with the arachnid mech? And I think what I ultimately wind up deciding is that I'm just going to give up trying to save 1 point of grid health, and I'm going to soften up the enemy, such that when the boulder explodes, we will have 1 less annoying Vek to deal with. So, not great to lose a grid health this early on into the mission and the island, but I could not conjure up a better solve. So on this turn, we have 1 threat to the grid in the form of the gastropod. The tumblebug will be blown by the wind safely out of the way. And using this method with the slide mech, the tumblebug going in initiative count 4 will get pushed in the way of the gastropod and will wind up being destroyed, which just leaves kind of the bulk mech free to kind of position itself as best we can. And I ultimately decide to just kind of clean up the board a little bit, get rid of the spare unstable boulder. And our penultimate turn will be a 4v... Oh, only a 3v3. The way the initiative order shook out and friendly fire damage was to our benefit. We've got 3 threats to the grid. Using the wind to our advantage, we can actually wind up body blocking the gastropod if need be. And then I can use the ice generator to break myself free after freezing the gastropod on D3. Yeah, the high-speed wind mission or environmental effect is sort of like the conveyor belts on detritus. You just have to be kind of cognizant of where things will end up rather than where they are. But then I haven't done anything about the moth. And there is frustratingly little I can do with the bulk mech. I've already committed my actions, and I've used up my temporal reset. So I've done goofed up. There's nothing I can do to save the grid on B7. Whoops. If I had maybe used my brain a little bit better, I could have just wound up body blocking the gastropod's attack with the bulk mech. Whoopsie daisy. And now we've got another really big problem with the Alpha Leaper on F4. Unless we can move it out of there, it's going to smash into the grid when the wind blows, even if it's frozen. So this is a situation where I think I need to engineer a ricochet for the bulk mech. Ah, I see. We push it out of the way, and then we use the ice to absorb the ricochet blast. That also works. So, mission is basically accomplished. It's just a matter now of cleaning up the board. I don't have any pilots capable of taking advantage of earned XP. So we're down 2 grid health, which isn't great. We're going to get it back. So no real net losses here. But also no increase to our grid defense. So we've got a Destroy the 2 Mountains mission, Defend the Solar Farms mission. We're on track for a Perfect Island reward. And I liked the look of Gamma Trench. We have to destroy 2 mountains, but that should be a relatively easy order. So after some deliberation, I elect to do the Cataclysm mission. The main benefit being that it is at least short, but this is a real tricky one. Once again, we've got sort of the absolute worst possible starting op4. Double Tumblebugs, Digger, Leaper, and the Blast Scion. I am trying to bait the Digger into positioning itself on E5. I think in my mind that would mean there would be a few less boulders on the board to hopefully be obstructing maneuverability. And I'm extremely sad to see the second time pod drops. I have to retrieve it, or else it's going to fall into the earth due to the Cataclysm. So my mech's mobility is restricted by webbing. We've got some serious problems here. If the Tumblebug blows up that unstable boulder, not only would it damage the grid, but it would also destroy the time pod. And if you lose the time pod, you also lose your Perfect Island reward. So with my slide mech, I'm able to do a lot of damage and hopefully clear up some space for us. And that leaves the question of what my other mechs can do. The Arachnid mech can get rid of the Leaper for us. which I commit to doing, I'm going to have to use this Spiderling. However, both the Bulk Mech and the Spiderling do a push, and I was very concerned about pushing the Tumblebug such that it would attack the Time Pod instead of the Unstable Boulder. So I see if I can't set up a double push, but look at this. Note that, like, I noticed this and thought maybe it was a glitch, but see how the Tumblebug's attack disappears once it's in front of the Time Pod? I thought maybe that's a glitch, so I push it, its attack appears again. And now, given this state of the board, I'm going to lose Ralph Carlson. The Alpha Leaper will destroy him, and there was nothing I could do to save him. Yes, I saved the Time Pod, but I would still be down a mech for the rest of this mission, which would almost guarantee my inevitable failure. And I was curious about what happened when I pushed the Tumblebug in front of that Time Pod. So I use a temporal reset here, and I commit to a very risky test of science. I repeat the push move with the Slide Mech, kind of fast-forwarding again in time. Free the Arachnoid Mech. And then I use the Bulk Mech to push the Tumblebug, and I'm going to see what happens. Is it a glitch, or does its attack actually go away, and does it actually refuse to target the Time Pod? And look at that, it doesn't. I am not sure if that's a new feature, or if it's just something I've never really noticed before. Because many Vec are quite capable and quite willing of attacking and destroying a Time Pod. So that was very strange. It cost me my temporal reset. But I just thought it was a very curious chain of events. I still need to get that Time Pod, by hook or by crook. At least the grid is safe at this exact moment. I destroy the Unstable Boulder to clear the way, and we have retrieved the Time Pod. So at least that has been accomplished, and the spawn block will destroy the last of the mites. So we are on par for our mission objective. The final turn will be a 3v3. So we have a dilemma. That moth has to be taken care of. Fortunately, there's no pilot inside the Slide Mech, so the Slide Mech can save the day there. That just leaves the final bit of grid health that I need to protect from the Tumblebug. And I have a really bad brain fart here. I agonize over positioning, and I forget. This is really stupid of me. I could have saved that pilot and frozen the Unstable Boulder, and everything would have been fine. I did not need to sacrifice Kirby. So that was a big misplay on my part. Do as I say, not as I do. So I foolishly sacrifice my only other pilot, and now Ralph is alone. Whoopsie daisy. That mission took me a long time. It was a big brain scratcher. We fast-forwarded a lot in time to save us, save us some precious minutes. And perhaps it was fatigue, but I just was not looking at the state of the board as optimally as I could have. We do have a new power core, which I believe I'm going to invest in the Bulk Mech and get the full damage upgrade. So now on a hit that also does bump damage, it is capable of doing 4 damage, potentially even 8 damage, depending on how many enemies it strikes. I really don't like the look of that train mission, so we're on to our final choice before the boss fight, and I think that Gamma Trench is the safe pick. Yeah, that's a really miserable map seed for the Arachnophiles, all those close together, tight grid building corridors. So yes, indeed I commit to the Gamma Trench mission. I'm not terribly happy with the shielded buildings positions, but it's fine. Our objective is to destroy a pair of mountains, and it is kind enough to give you a few pre-damaged mountains. And I'm not terribly concerned. I'm relatively confident in my ability to accomplish this, given the explosive boulders that are going to be around, and our propensity to do ricochets and forced movement damage. I think every single mission has started us off with 2 tumblebugs and a digger. Just brutal. So Slide Mech is hopefully going to be kind of my flex position slot. We are fortunate in that the digger squanders its first turn. We don't have to worry about the moth right now. So we just have to be concerned about the tumblebug on F3 and the gastropod. Fortunately, Ralph can tank a hit from the gastropod, can body block, so that will be the grid protected. And then really, I think I just skipped forward ahead in time. There was not a lot to do safely. I just elected to kind of let the tumblebug blow itself up and create some smoke. I figured that was more valuable. The Slide Mech will still be, you know, on hand to help. And then I think I just used the Arachnoid Mech to soften up the enemy for us. Yeah, note that the Slide Mech will be in a position to body block the enemy. So with both a body block and smoke, I'm hoping that that side of the board will be too restricted, and the enemy will try to ignore it. But I'm also not very happy of the fact that we've got kind of a nasty corner that is tile E5. So if the enemy places a boulder there, we're going to be in trouble. So we remain at a 5v3. And we are somewhat lucky. The enemy does not take advantage of that nasty corner. Really, I think it was the fact that the gastropod was targeting that building meant that the AI was not inclined to put itself at risk. So we have to dislodge that digger, like a nasty tick. But that is the reason that I softened it up deliberately. So the grid should be in good shape here. There's the power of that damage upgrade, and we free the way for our new Spiderling. Things are going pretty well. For once, this has been a difficult island. When I was playing, I was convinced that there was nothing I could do to save that pilot, Kirby. So I'm actually just more frustrated now on the rewatch, with the knowledge that that was a completely unnecessary sacrifice play. Whoops. One threat to the grid again, thanks to the gastropod. But we can get rid of that pesky blast scion, and then it's just a matter of playing cleanup. So we can block all of the new incoming spawns easily enough. And we can kill a pesky moth as well. So our final turn will be a 2v4 our favor. Once again, a good example of that banked action advantage that the Arachnophiles are so good at. It's also somewhat telling that, you know, I have not been using the cryo launcher, you know, every possible opportunity, as powerful as that weapon is. And that will be GG. Ralph Carlson fights alone. And now we have our boss fight, which I know is going to be the Mosquito Leader, a decidedly dangerous foe. But RNG is somewhat kind to us. I note that the Mosquito Leader cannot attack any grid buildings. So as long as we do not give it any targets on deployment, it will do nothing on the first turn, and that is very vital. We can either spend our time cleaning up its backup dancers, and then focus fire on the Mosquito Leader, or, perhaps even more ideally, we can just Alpha Strike the Mosquito Leader, and we won't have to worry about it anymore. I'm hoping for option B. And as luck would have it, we only have one threat to the grid. So as long as I can address the Alpha Leaper, the rest of my actions can be spent dealing with the Mosquito Leader. So you can see I was experimenting with positioning. But I think I elect to just kill the Mosquito Leader, first and foremost. And then I realize I can take advantage of the exploding boulders to free the Arachnoid mech if it freezes itself with the cryo launcher. And that is a good solve. We don't have to worry about that horrible instant death Mosquito Leader anymore. It's just a pair of Tumblebugs and one new special guest star. And of course it's the Digger. So we have no threats to the grid. We don't want to free the Alpha Leaper if at all possible. I could have done that maybe a little bit different way. I could have blocked a spawn and frozen the Tumblebug with the Arachnoid mech. Then the Digger would have killed the other Tumblebug for us. And maybe I just didn't want to deal with that Digger anymore. It's hard to say. We get 2 more Moths and a Gastropod. And we are finally getting some threats to the grid. But only one, in the form of that Tumblebug. With a turn still left to go, I need to be very careful about whether I'm going to be using the cryo launcher or not. I could have had the Alpha Moth free the Arachnoid mech. But then I also don't want to have that Alpha Leaper get freed from the ice. Now we have a rare instance of the slide mech sliding all targets next to it. That is a rare occurrence. And then, of course, for all this effort I go to, the Leaper is still going to get freed. which is a minor irritant. So our final turn will be a 5d4. And there was nothing I could do really to save it without using a temporal reset, which I elect not to do. Instead, I just repositioned the Spiderling to be in a more central location so it can respond to a greater number of potential threats. So for the final turn, we've got 3 threats to the grid. And they really have it out for the slide mech. But that's okay. There's nobody inside. I go for the cheeky 2-for-1. Not that it really matters. And that will be mission accomplished and GG for RST. It was pretty rough. I didn't need to lose that pilot. But at least we got another perfect island reward coming our way, and I'm excited to see my replacement. So Ralph doesn't have to be alone. We've got the repair field, which is kind of redundant since we've already got Viscera nanobots. And then, of course, we've got Popular Hero on Lily Reed. Of course. We can't have an actual pilot, can we? As far as the tools available for us to buy, there is nothing of a special use to us. You know, we don't have a Prime class mech, so Prime class weapons are not especially valuable. And I'm pretty happy with my current loadout regardless. So I'm going to double check to see just how many power cores I can actually really afford to use. And the answer is a lot, especially with no pilots available. So I'm just going to be selling Lily, dumping everything into power cores, selling Vortex Fist. I think that'll give us 12 reputation, which is worth 4 power cores. And then we're just going to upgrade these boys as much as we possibly can. Damage, health, anything and everything, it's all good. So join me for our penultimate video with the Arachnophiles as we take on a really crazy-looking archive as our final mission before the volcano. And we will see if the Arachnophiles can thread the needle, close it out. Ralph Carlson fights alone. But he's got it. We're confident in him. Bye, Cracky.